Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Sean and Sax show episode. What is this?
10.
10? Holy shit. We're on 10 episodes now? I don't even know. Then again, I don't even know what day it is half the time. We're almost at 100,000 downloads, babe.
We're
so
just a
cool.
sliver shy.
Guys, thank you so much for the support, for loving the show. Appreciate it. It really has been cool.
Uh-huh.
We talk about this every single time when we film, but it is humbling to have as many people reach out, comment, message us, talk to us. We had a guy last night. Tell him what happened to the gym.
Oh, yeah.
Tell everybody what happened at the gym.
We were getting ready to go in the gym. We were sitting in the truck, and some guy pulled up next to us and rolled down his window, and he's like, I love your show. I love watching the Sean and Sax show with my wife. Okay, bye.
Yeah, it wasn't even like Lions Not Sheep. I'm in the truck, which I've got my truck wrapped Lions Not Sheep.
Uh-huh.
And he pulled up, which is kind of, I mean, it's kind of weird. Somebody pulls right next to you and like sits there. I was like, what are we doing here, bud? And it was so cool. And when he said that, he's like, I love your guys' podcast. My wife and I listened to it. I was like, it's cool. Anyways, it's just, feedback. It's really cool. And truthfully, that is a beautiful thing. And it's really fun to have the feedback and to have so many messages from people. But like, I think this has helped our relationship a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
You think so?
Uh-huh.
I think this has helped our relationship quite a bit because it's, I don't want to say it's forced us. We're pretty fucking open. Like Saxony and I are pretty open.
Yeah.
Not only like through our social media with our friends, with the circles that we're in, but like it's forced us to talk about certain things, like topics, which we kind of already talk about anyways. Like that's where a lot of these shows stem from, is either a message that we got or something going on in our life. Like last week with like Pal and talking about, co-parenting and stuff like that. We just spent a week on a vacation with this blended family of ours. So it was like natural for us to talk about that.
For sure.
But it's caused us to talk about a lot. And we talk about different topics throughout the week and things like that. And so I don't know if it's a challenge to you guys to like start your own podcast or whatever, but it's just a really cool experience to be able to take on these topics, bring up these topics like with you and I. And, we open up a lot of dialogue. We open up a lot of conversation. Like you share your opinion on things. I share my opinion on things. We share our experience with a lot of things that are relevant and pertinent to the podcast. But
and it's accountability. Like it, with the things we've covered, like if we're speaking this and we're giving this to the marketplace, we sure shit better be living it. Mm-hmm. So I love I've caught myself like, like this is a new level of accountability. Yeah. For myself.
Yeah. It's good. I think it's, my buddy Garrett sent me a message when we did episode 1. Mm-hmm. Remember that? Mm-hmm. And he's like, dude, because he and his wife Danielle did a podcast, did a show, or they're doing a show, I should say. And then they did a bunch of episodes and then stopped and then started back up. Whatever. Anyways, my buddy Garrett and his wife Danielle, they have a podcast, and he's like, dude, I forget how he said it. This will help your relationship more than anything else. It'll cause you to expand and grow more than anything else. And I think that's been... For sure. I mean, shit, we did our first episode the week before we got married, right? Mm-hmm. So pretty much every episode we've done has been, from the beginning of our marriage, literally. Like, first episode, we were still dating. Every episode since has been since we've been married. Yeah. It's kind of a trip to think about. It is. It's not like we've been married for 30 years. And we're like, all right, let's do this podcast and share with you 30 years of experience. It's almost like a real world. Here's what happened to us this week. This is what's going on now. Here's the conversation we're talking about. These are the questions that we got. Right. You know what I mean?
Well, even today's topic that came up last night at date night, we were reflecting back on how far we've come in our dating experience with each other and our dating experiences with other people. We were kind of like laughing at ourselves on how we were. And like, just like, we're really glad where we're not.
we were at one of my favorite places in Utah, Asian Star. We were on date night, and it was an interesting conversation because we were literally talking about dating and people that we had dated and things that we had experienced in dating. And
you asked me what my worst or most awkward date I've ever been on.
Your most awkward date. Tell everybody about that. What was your most awkward date, babe?
It was one and done, and it was just a coffee date with a guy who I don't even remember his name, but he was a public speaker, I believe, and he was writing a book, I think, and he just was really there tell me all about himself, and it was the most awkward thing. And I remember I must have been dating you because you popped up in my head at this coffee date, and I was like, oh yeah, I know. I have people in my space that get on, stage and speak and have written books. And he's like, oh, don't even compare me to anyone else like that, blah, blah, blah. And I just remember laughing like...
Was he the skinny guy?
No.
That was a different guy.
Yeah.
Tell everybody about the skinny guy.
Yeah.
So this episode, we're going to tell you about all of our shitty dates and all the fucking weird-ass people we dated.
I also learned that, I have to... Not everyone is for me. And I'm not for everyone. And... if you don't know what a deadlift is, you probably won't have a very compatible life with me. So it was just it's really fun to like, not make fun of, but just like reminisce of like where we've been and where we are. And, like, I think you called me a pretentious bitch when I broke up with you? Is that what you said last night? You said something along those lines.
Something along those lines, yeah.
We were laughing about that.
Yeah.
I remember where I was when you broke up with me.
We were talking about it. I was telling, we were talking about it. And I said, I remember exactly where I was when you sent me that message and basically told me to fuck off. And I was like, what a bitch. Like, who does this chick think she is? And we were laughing about it and joking about it. But it was like, what was cool about it, and this goes into like what we're talking about today, is we were talking a lot about like the emotions with it and our connection to it and where we both were. And kind of reminiscing on our journey, but then also on like where we were before, why certain things did work out, didn't work out, why things happened the way that they happened. And really the conversation came to like where we are now and what we wanted to talk about today, which is in essence building a new relationship. You know what I mean? And it was funny because there's kind of two parts of this conversation that we wanted to share. Number one was like from the dating perspective, right? Like, this show's not for an 18-year-old who's trying to figure out how to kiss your first person, right? I don't know. Maybe there's a couple nuggets in here that you've gotten out of it if you're 18 and you're like brand new to the dating thing. But most people listening to this, I believe, are either, married or dating and have been married. Like you're either divorced and you're dating or you've been married for a certain period of time. Yeah. Kind of in that older genre, I guess, is what I'm getting at. So there's like the two aspects that we wanted to talk about and share because this came up a lot last night in our date. The dating, creating a brand new relationship, but then also creating a brand new relationship while you're in one and while you're married. And a lot of what you and I have talked about, which is, really cool, is literally creating a new relationship every single day. Yeah. And it's such a weird woo-woo, hippy-dippy bullshit thought process, right? Like, oh, it's a new day, and there's a fucking meme about it, and a tree, and the sun shining, and there's a bird sitting on a fucking branch. But it's like it's really, truly true. And I think a lot of people that have watched us know us well enough to know that we like the woo-woo, hippy-dippy shit, but we're also about the fucking work. You know what I mean? Oh yeah. We work really, really, really hard on ourselves, on our bodies, our relationship, our businesses, and the whole thing. And so, the thing that I wanted you to talk about is what you shared last night at dinner, which was about like building a new relationship while you're dating, like while you and I were dating, and having a lot of the triggers, having a lot of the things come up, having a lot of like those parallels, like, oh, I've seen this before. I've heard this before. I've felt this before. Yeah. You remember when we were talking about that?
Well, even with you and I, like we've dated twice, and both of those times were very, very different. And like, if you think about, we have this book of knowledge on where we've been, and we have all these stories, which we've already covered. It's like, we can walk around with this. We're already, we have 90% of our information already about this new person, right? Well, if you're only giving them 10% of new information to be able to be received, you're really missing out on what's really happening. And so a lot of like, with dating you, it's like, even 2.0, I could say, oh, well, he's going to do this because that's what he did before. Right. And it's like, what was I going to do with that? That's not going to serve us. Like, and so breaking this down is the biggest thing for me is I've become super self-aware. Super self-aware in the fact that it's like, when something happens, I get to stop and ask, like, what's really going on here? What, like, my stories, my programming, my history, of like, oh, all guys are liars. Yep. He's totally lying to me. How does that actually serve this person in front of you? It's like they're coming in with a massive disadvantage.
Well, in dating, that's what people do. That's what I did. That's what you did, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about this morning before the show. Like, contemplate this. If you're dating, you know exactly what we're talking about. Okay, taking it further. If you've been married and divorced, if you've been divorced and you're dating right now, you have a shit ton of experience, right? You have the past, you have the emotions, you have the feelings, you have the pain, you have the hurt, you have the betrayal, you have the frustration, you have the love, you have the missing, you have all of these things, right? And what you were talking about, like your programming, you have all of this programming of where you've been. And here we are as human beings, as creatures of comfort, of creatures of knowledge. We meet somebody new, and the first thing that happens that reminds us of a memory, brings us to an emotion, brings us to the past. You hear a song, you drive by a thing, like they say something that your ex said, bang, boom, you're just like my ex, you're just like this thing. And we talked about this at dinner. It's super, 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 and I don't know what the word is, like, it's really, really, really powerful when you start to get this. Because for a lot of time in dating, like I'd be with someone or in this space, and they would say something, they would do something, and I'm like, you're just like my ex. This is just the exact, it's a carbon copy, it's a rewrite, it's the same thing. And what's really interesting is being in the space of dating somebody new. Like, you don't know this person.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating is we bring all of our shit. And again, let's talk about the dating portion. We'll get to the kind of, if you're in a relationship, you've been in a relationship, creating that newness there. There's a lot of parallels between the two. But if you're dating, you do have the memory. I do have the songs. I do have the restaurants that I ate at with my ex. I have the streets that we drove down and the places that we've been and the parking lots that we made out in and all of this other shit. And that's real. That's very real. And it's in my brain, and it's in the cognitive reality that I have every single day. And what I have found really interesting is, like, the more we talked about what some of the things that we've worked on really well to rewrite this story and to create a new relationship. The first thing is communication, is us talking about this. Like, me having the ability to share with you, like, this is where I'm at right now. This is what I'm thinking about right now. I'll share an example. A song. The song that there was a song that my ex and I had that was like our song. And I told you what I did after we broke up. Like, I listened to that song over and over and over and over and over again to rewrite the story. And I did it because I didn't want to have attachments to things in the past that brought me into a place of negativity. Okay. So guys, what I'm talking about is if you've been in a relationship, whether it's a marriage, whether it's dating, and there are triggers, pains, frustrations, things, attachments to negativity, to darkness, whatever you want to call it, those things are always going to be there. And you have two choices. Like, number one, rewrite the story, create a new story around it, or let that literally manipulate and change what you're doing in the future. Meaning, we drive by something and I'm with you, and all of a sudden it triggers me, and I bring that trigger and that bullshit and everything to you, which it has nothing to do with you.
Right.
It has nothing to do with you.
And that's part of being self-aware.
Exactly. You're self-aware. You have to check yourself. But then also communicating. Yeah. And I think it's really powerful what you and I have the capacity to communicate on and not take it personally for agreements, not like pretend that there's something behind it. But when I told you that story, I was like, this is the song. And what's funny is every time it comes on now, it's now a new story where we kind of smile at it because we know what's been done and what's been rewritten. And so I think one of the very first things that people need to do is, number one, obviously become self-aware. Like, I do have pain. I do have trauma, whatever you want to fucking call it. I have triggers. I have these things, right? And knowing that that is real. And if you're with somebody that is mature and has the capacity to not take things personally, I think one of the best things you can do is communicate on that. Say, listen, this is why I went from really happy to really frustrated while we were at dinner, because we're sitting in a restaurant and a song came on, or you ordered the same drink or whatever. And when you have that reality with somebody, like, I think it's really, really fucking powerful. And you said something to me about my eyes. Remember when you shared that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell
so we are very, very, very smart with our subconscious. We can pick up on things subconsciously in other people because we are social creatures, right? And so I can literally look at Sean, and you can, most of you, if you pay attention, if you're actually aware and you're actually engaged with your partner. If you give a fuck about the person in front of you, like with you, I can see in your eyes, you literally change. And I can tell if you're triggered. And what's cool is I live in the 4 agreements, and I know that you are literally processing in that moment. Mm-hmm. And the last thing I need to do is ask you, what's wrong? What did I do? Did I do something? Because all that's doing is interrupting what you are processing on your own to get where you want to be. And it's because I have trust in you, and we have a lot of trust and communication in our relationship where, like, I know you're doing that. But if you pay attention, you'll notice that in your partner. There'll be these subtle changes in their face or their body language, and you'll know that maybe, like, just hang tight a second. Mm-hmm. But communicate also. Like, if you're feeling something and you're the one with the
and me face. Sharing that with you. I've shared that with you. And that was a hard thing for me. Yeah. And I think it's a hard thing for a lot of guys and girls, because there's a lot of people out there. I believe that there are a lot of human beings that feel like if they shared that, number one, it's uber vulnerable. It's like crazy, crazy, crazy vulnerable. And it's maybe a weakness, right? Now imagine that. Mm-hmm. I'm being serious. Imagine dating. Yeah, you're talking about a guy. Oh, I'm the speaker. Not nobody to flex in the muscles. I have no fear. I have no pain. I have no weakness. I fixed it all, right? Bullshit. You have fucking fears. You have triggers. Like, you might as well connect with me on them so that I know what they are, instead of you pretending like you're walking on water, and then all of a sudden we find the chink in the armor, and then you fold like a cheap fucking suit, right? Yeah. So my point in saying that is being able to I think this is really good at dating too, because it'll vet people really fucking fast. Yes. Fellas, if all of a sudden you share with this person that you're dating, hey, here's what I'm thinking, here's what I'm feeling right now. I'm triggered because of this. This is a song that was, and it's just, it doesn't have anything to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. And what I think makes our relationship work is you don't ever take it personally. Like when I say, hey, I'm triggered. I'm pissed right now. I'm frustrated right now. I'm in a dark place right now. And whether that's about the past, whether that's about a past relationship, whether that's just me having a shitty fucking day, you not only have the awareness to see that I'm there, but now you go into that space where, like, I'm not trying to save this motherfucker. I'm not trying to change him. I'm just going to hold space, because you know that what I'm doing is my own work. Mm-hmm. You know that what I'm doing, and I know the same thing about you. When you tell me I'm having a shitty day, this is what's going on. You know, this is where we're at. You got a letter not too long ago about some bullshit from the past relationship, past deal, anger, bitterness, whatever. And you got that and opened it up. And I saw the same thing. You were like, you kind of went back into that space where you're like, why am I fucking dealing with this? This sucks. I don't want to be in this space, And I was just like, yo, what do you need from me? Mm-hmm. It wasn't like, hey, fuck these guys. Let's go kill them all. Like, the whole thing was like, what do you need from me? Yep. And you said, I'm good. Just let me process this. Mm-hmm. Great. I did. You know what I mean? And I think what is incredibly powerful for people that are dating and trying to build a new relationship to understand is, number one, you have a ton of freaking baggage. Every person listening to this. Everybody does. And whether you want to lie about it or whether you want to acknowledge it, perhaps the thing that's keeping you from finding or building love or building connection is the fact that you are lying, you are hiding from it. And I would have everybody listening to this consider that perhaps the thing that actually helps you bond quicker with somebody is that vulnerability. I think what's helped you and I build what we have as powerfully as we have and as fast as we have is it was like we both played small. Mm-hmm. We both fucked around with dumb shit, dumb people, no offense, but like we both played small. And we chose to play small. But I'm not putting any blame on anyone else. We chose to act how we acted. We chose to not go all in. We chose those things. And I think what 2.0, what you and I both looked at is like, look, if we're going to play this game, like we're going to play this fucking game. Yeah. We're all in. Like we're going to play all in on this game. And when we both made that commitment, we brought everything that came with that along. Right. Knowing you have baggage, you have a past, I have baggage, I have a past, I have triggers, I have all of this other stuff. And I'm okay talking about it. Like I'm okay telling you about my past, my ex, my fears, my insecurities, all of these other things. And you are too. And it has nothing to do with me.
And part of being self-aware, once you start doing it, it's rad. It's like being in that scene in the Matrix we've referenced before. It's like when you can pause and you see all this coming at you. You know, I was talking to you earlier about this. It's like we have this, our brains like are hardwired for this reaction, right? Like fight or flight. Like we are so hardwired to react in a pattern. But we are conscious enough and we're intelligent enough to stop and say, okay, the fire alarm is going off, but do I want to go and run because there's a fire alarm? Or do I know that that's a false alarm because of my conditioning or my history? And do I want to stop and then make a choice of like, okay, how do I actually want to proceed? Do I want my past validated? Do I want my story validated? Do I really want to push this person away because truly it's my own bullshit? Or do I want to call myself out and say, no, stop. That's your shit, Sax. And literally take a time out. Like I tell you, I'm like, hold on. Like just give me a second. And I will literally like take a pause. And then I'll come back and be like, okay, I don't have a term. I can't even remember what I say. But I'm like, I'm just in it. Like, just hold on a second. And that, you know, that like, that's literally me. I'm fighting against my programming. Dr. Joe Dispenza, he talks about neuroplasticity, and this is a real thing. So give yourself some grace knowing that like you have trauma patterns. We live in stories. Our mind is made up of stories. That's right. I mean, even Aubrey Marcus did a post on it today. Right. But it's, you have the ability to stop that and make better choices. Right. You can rewire different choices. You can rewire your
different
brain.
Choices.
Yeah.
Different choices. If you've been dating for an extended period of time, we were talking to somebody not too long ago, and it was like, the conversation was funny because she was like, yeah, it's the same thing, and guys are all the same, and it always ends up at this period of time, 3 to 6 months, that's when everybody runs and everybody in all their true colors. And it's kind of like, well, if that's been your reality, the common denominator here is you. Like, what are you doing at 3 to 6 months? Where are you at, right? When you really stop and think about that, like the real practical application of this for people to understand is like when and I'll just give it to you from my perspective, as I'm sitting at dinner with you and something comes up, something comes into my brain, something triggers me, something happens, like I have the ability to communicate to you, here's literally exactly where I am right now. Yeah. Like, here's what's going on in my brain. Here's what's happening. I want to run. I want to fight. I want to throw the glass. I want to be pissed. I want to cry. I want to be sad. Right? But then also knowing that you are not my past. Everything that I'm experiencing with you right now is new. So a literal, for those of you listening, a literal example of this is, imagine I've been to a restaurant 100 times with an ex. Okay? We've been there. And all of a sudden, I go on a date, and you take me to that same restaurant. Now, you and I are on our second date. Our first date. Fuck, it's our first date. I have two choices. Pretend that you are my ex and bring all of that shit back to the table, or say, you know what? I've never been to this restaurant with you. This is a brand new experience. This is a brand new reality. This is literally a brand new person. And you think about all of the experiences that we have as human beings with another human being. And there's always going to be an attachment to something in the past. There's always going to be an attachment to flying on an airplane, taking a shit, walking the dog, mowing the grass. There's always something in our brain that connects us to something from the past, right? And what's dope about building this, quote, new relationship, especially in dating, is I've been to the lake before with someone else. So I've been to the lake with you. But this is a brand new experience in going to this lake with you. I've never been here before with you. I've never done this experience that we're having right now with you. And I think when people try that on and look at it from that perspective, it's a really simple way to be able to remove a lot of that toxicity and a lot of that baggage and really learn to trust somebody, really write new stories. Because if every single thing from my past is somehow attributed to you, what you did, the perfume that you wore this day, the way that you did your hair, the way that you said this, whatever it is, it's like, you're never going to fucking build anything new with anybody, right?
Yeah. And what's helped me is I've always been very aware that I'm not afraid of new love. I'm afraid of old pain. And if you can be conscious enough to know that, like, I don't need to bring the fear of pain into everywhere I go in life. If you can just be aware that, like, okay,
that's good shit.
Like, I know that this hurt you before, and it might hurt you again.
Mm-hmm.
But why don't I choose to give it a shot?
Right.
I mean, how empowering. Like, you're here on this earth for a limited amount of time. Why not give yourself new experiences?
Right.
Give yourself a chance to really, like, give someone your full attention, your full heart, your full everything, and let them prove you wrong. That's on them. But if you just continue to show up with love in your heart, no matter what's happened to you, like, why else do it? Like, why walk around jaded and closed off and walled off? Like, that's on you. That's a quality of life you're choosing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was single a long time. I have had my heart broken multiple times. I still chose to be with you.
Mm-hmm.
I still choose every day to keep my heart completely open for you. You could go off and break my heart at any point in time. The fact that you're
and vice versa.
Yeah, the fact that we're married, that doesn't make it like it's not. What's the word I'm looking for? Indestructible. It's not indestructible. People fuck up in marriages all the time, but it's the fact that, like, I am choosing a quality of life for myself. I want to have an open-hearted relationship with you. I want to trust you. I choose to trust you, and that makes my life better. And maybe it's selfish, and therefore, whatever. But
dude, say what you just said. That we got to timestamp that. Whoever's listening. I choose new love over old pain. That's good shit. Yeah. Why do you think it is that it's so hard for people? Because you and I both made that choice. You and I both chose to go all in with each other, regardless of the fact that we've both been hurt, we've both been lied to, we've both been cheated on, we've both been deceived. We both chose that. Why do you think it is that in my opinion, is so fucking difficult for people to do?
For me personally, I don't want a heavy life. I don't want a heavy heart. If you think about your baggage as literal baggage, and if you've ever had to put on a big heavy backpack and actually backpack with it for a long time, and then you take it off and you move, you feel really light. And I want to have a light heart more than I want to have my stories validated. And I will always live that way. If a horrendous thing happened with us, I would still choose to have love in my heart no matter what, because that's what matters most to me. And I think most people, or a lot of people, are so, they don't truly know how to let go. There's like, Buddha says, like, it's like anger, it's like holding onto a hot coal, I believe.
Or drinking poison, expecting the other person to die.
I love that. That speaks volumes to me. And it's like, I literally have had really, really traumatic exes in my life where I have every reason to have all of these walls and all this, all these stories. I mean, they're validated, but what is that going to serve us? Mm-hmm. Like, what does that matter?
Well, what's dope is it's like, you're not, and this, you've heard this 1,000 times. I've heard this 1,000 times. You're not my ex, and I'm not your ex. And when you think about that, like, everybody listening to this has heard that before. But what we do is we bring all of our shit into the current, and somehow we're almost looking for ways to find the excuse or find the pain or find the trigger. It's like, see, you're just like, this is just like, this feels just like. Mm-hmm. And what's fascinating is, like, the same way that we attach the pain, we can attach the pleasure. Mm-hmm. The same way that we have the fear, we can also take that leap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and also having gratitude, like we tease all the time, is, what would you do if you saw my ex, or what if with this? And it's like, I have nothing but gratitude for all of my exes and all of your exes. Yeah. Truly. Like,
well, it's what got us here.
Only have gratitude.
Yeah.
Every single thing that happened has led me to today. Right. And as I made a choice to have love and to have gratitude in my heart at all costs, because I'm unwilling to be jaded. And it's like, I have people in my space that are still hanging on to things that happened to them a decade ago in a marriage. And it's
Isn't
like,
that wild?
I look at you and I'm like, you have the key to the, like, you have the key to unlock the door and free yourself. Like, you just, if you forgot, it's in your back pocket. And this is a big thing about new relationships.
Look, the keys,
the keys right there.
If you're watching this, the keys are right here. See? This is why we keep them.
Oh my gosh.
Big, giant
now.
fucking keys that you have.
It's because I'm a realtor.
These did serve a purpose. Everybody laughs at the set, but these did serve a purpose. See?
It's in the details, love. It's in the details.
Mm-hmm. These are the keys.
Another thing I want to talk about with communication is telling the truth. Like this is your slogan. Like tell the fucking truth. Tell the truth and what your expectations are. The whole 3 to 6 months thing is a thing. And here's why. This is my theory. It's because people don't tell the truth. And eventually the truth comes out.
It has to come out.
You can't
That's why it's like it's 6 months.
Fake it.
You've been banging for so long. You're like, okay, listen, we're past that honeymoon phase. Like now what? Oh shit. Now I got to tell you that I really have some anger. Now I got to tell you that I owe a bunch of money. Now I got to tell you that I'm a fucking deadbeat, that I'm a liar, that I'm this and that. It's like, oh fuck.
Yeah. Now I have to tell you that, I was really pretending that I didn't want kids, or I did want kids, but I really don't want kids. Dude, and just be honest. There's a lot of people out there.
I don't want to say who, but we have a friend who was telling us a story about dating. And she was dating a guy. And 2 months after they started dating, this guy had 2 kids and the whole thing, right? 2 or 3 months after they started dating, this guy's like, hey, I need to tell you something. She's like, what? And he's like, I don't have 2 kids, I have 4 kids.
That's
and she's like,
weirdest lie.
What the fuck? Why would you lie about that? He's like, well, a lot of girls, they don't want the baggage and all those kids. It's a lot of kids and the whole thing. And she's like, I don't fucking care about the kids, bro. I care about the fact that you totally lied to me. Absolutely lied to me. And he was like, look, I know we can, with the idea that somehow, some way, she was going to be like, oh my God, I'm so glad that you told me that now. Thank you. And literally, I don't care who you are. Every red flag goes up, if you're willing to lie about how many children you have, what the hell else have you been lying to me about? That is it's not a recoverable reality, in my opinion. But when you think about that, the especially in dating, because we're still kind of talking about the dating thing, especially in dating, if it's not been working out for you in dating, if you seem to find yourself in the 3 to 6 month cycle of shenanigans, right? Number one, perhaps it's you, okay? Perhaps you have some serious shit you got to deal with. Perhaps you have some of your own work that's got to be done. But perhaps for a second, this notion of trying to flex and impress and manipulate your way into love isn't the answer. Perhaps if you tried on truth, if you tried on vulnerability, if you tried on literal truth, speaking every single thing that's really inside of you. So many people have, I don't want to say fought me on this, but have disagreed with me on this because I've shared about that one date that I went on, the coffee date I went on with the lady a couple of years ago. And we're sitting down and we're having this coffee conversation. And I'm not interested in what your favorite cars are, right? We've talked about this. I'm like, so what are you afraid of? And there was this, well, that's a big question. I don't really know. I come to think about it, I don't really think that I'm afraid of anything. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, are you fucking serious? Is she serious right now? Am I supposed to be whoa, you're badass, babe. You're fucking awesome. Let's get married. I'm like, you're so full of shit right now. It's not even funny. I was like, and my response was, that's fascinating because I'm afraid of a lot of shit. I have a lot of fears. And it was just an interesting exchange to see how trying to position yourself as fearless, bulletproof, never been hurt, never been scarred, never had any issues before. Number one, it's a lie. But number two, we talked about this morning, you're literally trauma bonding.
Yep.
You're bonding with somebody over a lie, which is, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I've studied enough about trauma bonding because I've been in that space. You're literally bonding over trauma. You're bonding through a lie. You're trying to build a relationship, connection, love with someone over a lie. You're like, here's a lie. Will you come back to me with a lie? Will you love my lie? Will you connect to my lie? Oh my God, you accept my lie and love my lie and believe it? Awesome. I'm just going to keep going down this route because this route is way fucking easier. And you keep finding yourself in these dead end realities, quote unquote, getting hurt, 3 to 6 months, the same cycle and the same wheel, when perhaps building a new relationship is literally doing new shit and communicating truthfully.
For sure.
Honestly. Yeah. Candidly about things. I don't know that I've ever had, I I don't know if I've ever had a relationship with anybody like I've had with you in that reality. And not in a sense where, I mean, it was me not being willing to open up. It was me not being willing to share truth. Not lying, saying, well, I'm lying. Well, I guess technically I was if I'm not telling you the truth, but knowing that I'm not putting all the cards on the table. But where did that get me? It didn't get me where I wanted to go.
Yeah, and a lot of lying. It's like once you get past the 3 to 6 months and you're like really in an established relationship, like learn to make a habit of giving and receiving honest feedback. You and I give sometimes really raw feedback to each other.
Raw, for sure.
And I'm like, we're never going to not be explicit on this show.
Anyways, that's the next episode.
It's you call me out on things. And what's dope about our relationship is instead of being defensive, it is so easy because sometimes I'm like, fuck you, dude. I am fucking badass. You don't even know. Don't talk to me that way. Instead, I'm like, why is this person that I love and that I know loves me giving me this feedback? I do, but I don't really mean it. That's just because I'm sassy. But it's like, I'm like, okay, why is this? If I trust you and I love you and I know you love me, why are you giving me this feedback?
Right.
And it's not to make me feel bad, but it's really, really, really easy to get defensive and be like, oh, fuck you. But it's like, instead, I stop and I'm like, okay, you're right. Like, you're right. That is, you did it in the truck last night. You're like, don't say you're going to fuck up. And I was like, okay.
You needed to hear that, though.
But I love that. Like, I'm okay with it. You don't sugarcoat it, so I really get it. Yeah. But to me, it's like that builds trust. And I know that you're going to tell me the truth. And above anything, that's what's hurt me personally the most in relationships is I just was like, why didn't you just tell me the truth? And I think a lot of men, because they're fixers and they don't want to like hurt you necessarily, they'd rather just avoid the truth, or they'll make a decision for you so they don't have to ask. And so if you turn that, if you almost alchemize like that feedback as this person's trying to help me level up, that's a game changer.
It's a total game changer.
Total game changer. And I do it with you too. It's like, you almost like raise my power, and I think that I raise your perspective. Like we have this really, because men and women are very different, and we both have really, really powerful skill sets to complement the other.
Here's why I think it works. Let me rephrase that. Here's why I know it works. Because we trust each other.
Yes.
And again, this like all sums up building something new. Is if there's no trust there, forget everything else, right?
Yep.
And we all know that, but like you can't communicate openly and honestly if there's no trust there, because you're just lying. You're not establishing that. And I have been in that space where I've held back, but I've expected everything. I have not shared, but I've expected sharing the entire thing. But like you and I have that capacity because we trust each other, and I know that we trust each other because we're all in with everything, with the words, with the actions, with the whole thing. Like there's a lot of me that fears and has feared bringing up my past because of the comparison, right? Because knowing that the feminine, the woman is like, oh, well, he's comparing me to the past, and there's this, and there's this, and there's all of this other shit, right? I know that when you say, where are you, what's going, like, I don't want to tell you something other than the truth, because I know that if I do that, number one, I'm lying, but number two, I'm not building with you. But I also know, and this is something, fellas, I want you to listen to, is if you really want a powerful woman, give her powerful shit. If you want a powerful woman, give her heavy things to carry. And I'm not trying to make this, I've played the princess role a lot, where I'll take on all the baggage, I'll take on all the shit, I'll take on all the heavy, I'll take on not sharing my emotions, not telling where I'm really feeling, so I can just be the alpha. I can be the man. And the reality is, I think it's done me a disservice in my relationships in doing that, because if you don't really know where I'm at, you don't really know what's going on, how can you help me? How can you stand by me? But I would issue this challenge to every single dude listening, is if you want a powerful woman, what I mean by powerful, we could spend hours and hours and hours talking about, if you want a woman to stand by your side, if you want a woman to know that like you're impeccable with your word, give her your word. If you want her to support you in what you do, share with her truth, share with her honesty. And one of the things that I am like ruthlessly committed to with you is I don't care about your feelings. I care about your truth. Mm-hmm. And don't take that the wrong way. I know you don't, but people listening, oh, he's a dick. What I mean by that is like, I care more that you know the truth than I do your emotions to the truth. Mm-hmm. And I think that you believe that. And you know that, let me rephrase that. I know that you value that more than anything else. Mm-hmm. And what, like you said last night in the truck, when you said something and I'm like, no, bullshit. Don't fucking say that again. Don't fucking say that. And it wasn't like, hey, babe, don't. I was like, no, don't ever fucking say that again. Don't ever orate those words out of your mouth again, because that is negative. It's bullshit. Yeah. And instead of you fighting me on that, you knew like, okay, not only does he mean this, but he's speaking real fire into this reality. Yeah. But I think this is really, really, really important for people to understand, especially men, is we are fixers. We want to protect. We want to keep you from the dirt. We want to keep you from the freaking heavy shit. And I truly believe that one of the superpowers that you and I have is I have no problems giving you heavy shit. Mm-mm. I have no problems handing you the fucking load. I have no problems handing you the deepest, darkest, realest, gnarliest, most fucked up parts of me, my insecurities, my fears, all of the things that I have going on inside. Because number one, I know that you can handle it. But number two, I don't want a relationship where I can't do that.
And the more you do that, that's where, honestly, that's what creates safety. So the feminine loves to feel safe, right? With the masculine. You being so raw and open, I trust you. Because if you trust me with all of that, it's easy to trust you with surface level shit. It's easy to trust you with like the day-to-day stuff with, and the fact is like, it makes me, it's almost like an honor to get to hold that space and to hold that energy with you. Because women, the feminine loves to be nurturing. Like we love to be open and loving and nurturing. And like, we can handle that. Like it's this dance of, I don't like to use the word safety, but it's like there's so much wholeness.
It is safety. It is. That's a good word for it. I mean, it is safety. I feel safe knowing that I can share anything with you.
Right.
And the more I share with you, I think the more you feel safe.
For sure.
And and there's this like dance, you use the word dance, like there's a dance that goes on in dating where the guy shows up as the alpha and the protector, and I don't need to share these things. I'm not going to tell you the deepest, darkest, whatever, because, I don't want you to have to deal with those things or feel those things or experience those things. And so the feminine feels kind of like, well, I'm on the outside.
Right. We feel robbed of it. We feel robbed of that connection.
You feel like you're well, I don't really know everything. Mm-hmm. And then that builds a lack of connection, almost a distrust. Like, well, is he really telling me everything? Where a lot of people have, again, I go back to that fall where a lot of people said, well, there's a time for all of that, Sean. There's a time for that in dating. And you have to establish trust. You have to establish these things in order for me to honor you with all that stuff. And I completely disagree. I vehemently disagree with that. If you're going to build something, come out of the fucking gates with everything. If you're going to build something real, if you want to build a new relationship that's different than the bullshit that you've experienced in the past, number one, you're going to have to do things differently, but put all of the fucking cards on the table. I'm not talking about going to Ruth's Chris on your first date going, all right, listen, I had a porn addiction. I jerk off 17 times a day.
Whoa.
I've lied. I did it. And like you have this laundry list on your fucking phone of all of this stuff. What I'm talking about is like being all in, man, with your words, be impeccable with your words. If someone asks you a question and it makes you uncomfortable, good, but answer it with truth.
Yes.
There's nothing that's, in my opinion, there's nothing that's too personal. There's nothing that's out of line. There's nothing, if you're trying to build a relationship, if you're trying to build and connect with a human deeply, everything has to be in. Everything has to be on the table. You have to be willing to do that. And if you're not, then don't expect to ever create that connection.
And if the person across from you can't handle it, they're not your person.
Exactly.
Bye-bye.
Exactly.
Thank you for that $30 steak. Goodbye.
30?
Enjoy.
You must have been dating some cheap motherfuckers. We don't do 30. We do $30.
I don't know.
Sides.
I've never seen the bill at Ruth's Chris because you won't ever let me pay.
I know. We buy
You're
more
that
expensive
guy.
steaks than $30.
So talking about the masculine and feminine, like I want to talk about differences too. is a big part of building a new relationship is we really like ourselves. I like my things. I think things, all my opinions are my truths, right? I see the world through my lenses.
How come you can say that and you don't get called a narcissist, but when I say that, I get called a narcissist?
I'm sure someone out there calls me a narcissist.
Well, whatever.
But
Here we are.
is accepting the person's differences. It's like, don't judge what you don't understand. Like the jumping in the pool posts that went viral, right? Sean posted a picture of us jumping in the pool, and he wrote this whole description about just jump in the pool, right? And it was really about like, you showed up for me. You did something I wanted to do, regardless of your opinions around it or what you did or didn't want to do. You did it for me. It's staying curious in your relationship about, and almost like exploring the differences or the uniquenesses about your partner, and getting to a point where like you want to see the world through someone else's vantage point. You get to, I mean, what a fun ride that is. And that's what I love about you is, you know, you have a wild mind and you see things, and it's like, I just find myself like smiling a lot with you. It's like, oh, I love that you see that. Or I learn a lot from you. I've learned tremendous amounts of things from you. And it's like, I love that. It's like oh,
what?
Cool.
Like what? What have you
lots of things. We don't need to talk about that. But no, I love it. And it's like, what's great is
we're going to write a book about that, by the way.
Yeah. It's really taken me out of being so self-centered or have narcissistic traits, right? Where it's like the world revolves around me and I'm stuck in the mud with I'm right. Like, I don't want to be right. I want to be happy. Mm-hmm. I want to have a fun life. I want to have fun with you. So maybe if you want to do things I don't want to do, or you say things that conflicts with maybe what I think, like, instead of wanting to be right and fighting it, I just get curious. I'm like, okay, well, why though? Like, tell me why. Mm-hmm. Educate me. Because I really don't need to be right. I don't get any extra coins.
What is right?
Right.
Like, what is right? What does it mean to be right?
It just validates that I am, like, I don't have to move. You come here. I am right. You come to we see this a lot in relationships where there's this conflict because someone needs to be right. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I would rather fight for you and I than fight for what I believe is right or wrong in something that's like, unless it's something serious. Yeah. But I'm talking like little things.
There's a huge difference between being right and winning.
Yeah.
And I want to win.
Yeah.
Like, being right is trying in some way to say, like, you're incorrect and I'm correct. But when I win, we win.
Yes.
When I win, like, I'm moving forward. I'm learning a lesson. We're progressing. And having that conversation where it's like, look, it's not whether you did this quote unquote right or wrong, but it's like, how do we progress? What did we learn? Where are we going? You know what I mean? Yeah. So let's shift gears for a second. Well, it's kind of the same theory, conversation, topic, but talking about being in an established relationship and creating a new relationship. Now, we're not talking about polygamy. Now, we do live in Utah. We're not talking about signing up with somebody else, going onto a dating site, and bringing in a third wheel, right?
I don't even know how y'all do that.
I can't even handle one woman. Imagine having 5. Imagine having 5 wives. Jesus. Anyways, that would be a different podcast. We'll interview my buddy. He's got that show, My 5 Wives. We should have him in it. That'd be actually a really good episode. Let's have him.
We talk
and
about
his 5
learning
wives on.
Something new, babe.
That would be fucking wild. That would be really cool.
I would literally be like,
we need to interview him. Let's get him on. Anyways. So we were talking about this morning because we're how do you build a new relationship when you're already in one, right? And this is something that came up at dinner last night that we were talking about. Yeah. And we also talked about this morning. You know, the dating thing is understandable, right? We get that. Everybody understands, well, we're not married. We're not here. We don't have any history. Okay, these are great tools that I can use. I could rewrite this, so on and so forth. But if you've been in a relationship for 1, 7, 10, 12, 20 years, you know, this idea of we hear this all the time. You hear this, I hear this, like, we're stagnant. This is deal. Our sex life is this, you know, it's boring. It's all of these other things, right? I think the same thing applies in a relationship that is a longer term one, marriage, like a long-term relationship, we'll call it a long-term relationship, whether it's marriage or not, it's the exact same reality. Because what's interesting is I might not be dealing with my ex. I might not be dealing with pain of a memory from 2 years ago or a year ago or my divorce. We might be together for 10 years or 15 years. But what I'm connected to is what we did 2 years ago or 7 years ago or 8 years ago, and patterns and realities that were established a long time ago that are constant. Now, you and I can't speak to this because we've been married for like 6 days, not 6 years. I told you I'm not good at the time stuff. Maybe 7 days, 8 days, I don't know. Well, this is our 10th episode, so about 2 months. Rounded numbers. We've been married for about 2 months, so we can't speak to what it's like in 10 years. However, I was married for 10 years, and I can speak to what I realized now and what I know now in that relationship, that I stayed connected to the things of the past. I stayed connected to the patterns. I stayed connected to, well, this is what you said before. This is what you did before. And we'd go to therapy or we'd go to counselors and whatever, and they would give us these ideas and suggestions and tools, but we were literally trying to build the same damn house with these things. Yeah. And so one of the things that I think is incredibly important is realizing that, like, you get to build a new relationship every single day. Yeah. I mean, you literally do. Like, you literally have the ability. You could be married for 5 years and go, hey, the way that we've been doing it for the last 5 years, it's almost identical to having the history and the memory of like a last marriage or a last relationship, whatever. Maybe there's pain, maybe there's frustration. Maybe we've been married for 6, 7, 8 years and this has happened, or we've been in this downward spiral, or we're disconnected, or whatever. It's the same type of attachment. It's the same type of memory connection to something in the past that maybe it doesn't bring you joy, maybe it doesn't bring you pain, but it's as real as dating and the trauma bonds and things along those lines. Yeah. I truly believe that the same tools that we're talking about in dating, in literally rewriting something and looking at your lover and being like, here's what I feel right now. This is what I'm wanting to do, but I know that it's not going to build something new. I've done this with you so many times where I'm looking at you and I have a thought or I have a feeling and I'm like, I know that this isn't real right now. I know that like what I'm thinking and feeling is not you. It's connected to something in the past. It's connecting to my own bullshit, to my own stories, to whatever. And I know this has nothing to do with you. And so then there's that internal conversation of, what do I want? You have this written on the bathroom mirror. This is like one of the biggest questions that I ask with clients about sheep and coaching. And the whole thing is, what do you want? And stopping and saying, okay, I want this outcome. I don't want to be connected to my pain. I don't want to be connected to yesterday. I want to build something completely fucking new. And having this internal dialogue with yourself without burning the fucking thing down. And then literally being able to chart something completely new, right? And so taking these tools, talk about that for a sec. Like you mentioned some things this morning before we jumped on that were really powerful in this.
Well, what just came to mind is I was thinking about, if you even look at yourself, the last 10 years of me, I have been, I don't know how many different people, truly. Mm-hmm. I have evolved in 10 years so much. And what I know, and we hear about this like with coaching and with couples, is that they either resist change or they get lost with change. So it's like, they lose this, well, you're changing. And to me, it's like,
good.
I want you to change.
That's a compliment.
Right. I want you to change. I want to watch you evolve. I want to be your biggest cheerleader. And say, hypothetically, we've been married for 5 years and I haven't had that outlook, and now you're starting to change all this. I can stop and say, okay, I have been resistant to that, but instead maybe I get curious and communicate with you like, hey, so actually you're doing all these things. Like, what are your plans? Like, where are you going? Like, what do you want? And in just those conversations of reconnection, you can do that. Like, your ego may be like, oh, I can't. I'm too far in. I can't start, being on board now. And it's like, but what do you have to lose? I love the fact, and this is what I've wanted. This is when I wrote a list of what I wanted in a partner was, I want someone who encourages my growth. because I have found that a lot of people that I've been with, they get very, very, very uncomfortable, or they would start to panic when I was evolving or changing. And that wasn't, it's like the rubber band you talk about, right? Like I'm going to go one way or another. I'm going. And it's not a negative. It's just like, I want to grow and I want to change. And to be a supportive partner, it's like, stay fluid in that. Like you evolve and change. You evolve and change. Like don't expect anyone to remain the same. And yeah, like I want that for us. I want to always be curious and ask questions and inquire and stay just open-minded about like where you're going. And that goes back to like I don't have to have an opinion about everything you're doing. I don't have to say that's right or that's wrong. Like I don't get to live your life for you. And just because you're married to me doesn't mean that I dictate that the yes or no. Like I need to stay on board with you, or I need to get out of your way.
Mm-hmm. I think the continuing to grow, it's a scary thing for a lot of reasons. Number one, it's scary individually, because what's on the other side? If I take on this fitness challenge, if I take on this financial challenge, if I take on these things and I want to expand and grow, like growth, change is probably the most constant thing, but is also one of the scariest things. But yet, what you said is dead on. Like, I'm not the same dude I was a year ago. Like, I'm radically different. I want that different. I want to be different. And I think people listening to this that have been in a relationship, like, I stayed the same in my marriage. I mean, relatively speaking, my patterns were the same, my habits were the same, my words were the same. A lot of those things were the same. You'd read a book and you'd get motivated or inspired for a second, but it wasn't enough to really like lift off anywhere different. It was kind of like these little bursts of change or little bursts of something. We'd go to counseling or therapy and you try one thing and you do it for 4 or 5 days, and then it was just this slow progression back to this old way of being, right? And I think something that is radically powerful for people to do is number one, if you're established in truth, this is always going to be the game. Like, I want you to be able to say, hey, this is where I want to go. This is where I want to be, or this is boring the shit out of me, or I want you to do this, and when you have that level of communication and trust, you can go there. I truly feel like if you've been in a relationship, or you're in a relationship right now, where you've been there for a long time, either it is mundane, it is lethargic, or it's the same, or it's predictable, you know what I mean? You being able to be radically fucking transparent and honest and having that new level of communication would be huge. I mean, there's a lot of people that you and I talk to. I mean, my buddy DJ, I share his story all the time, and he's okay with me sharing this. And
I love it.
His story was unbelievably powerful. I mean, this is a guy who came to the Lions Not Sheep experience who was in a really bad place. His marriage was falling apart. He literally had a girlfriend. He was married. He had a girlfriend. He knocked up his girlfriend, got his girlfriend pregnant, and it was just like spiraling out of control at a rapid rate. And I remember very vividly, going through this with him and talking to him about the whole thing and all of his pains and his struggles and the disconnection and the lies and all of his desires and all this other stuff. And I remember the conversation being around, intimacy and connection and not having what it is that he wanted, so on and so forth. And I challenged him, after working with him and coaching, I said, I want you to like tell your wife the truth, man. And he's like, dude, if I do, she'll think I'm a fucking freak. You know what I mean? They were literally raised in a very religious household and very, very religious environment. And so the conversations around sex and intimacy and exploring and expanding, it was kind of a taboo thing. And it is taboo in a lot of religious cultures. And I think that's a very dangerous thing. And sex and money are the number 1 and number 2 causes of divorce. So maybe we should start talking about those things. Anyways, it's like, dude, if I tell her these things, she's going to think I'm fucking nuts. I was like, well, there's only one way to find out. Isn't the goal here for you to be able to create something that's comfortable and that you want versus this world of lies and discomfort? Long story short, he goes home, takes her out to dinner, and they sit down, and he essentially tells her everything, like everything that he wants. They've been married for years. They have 2 kids together, married, and the whole thing. And I'll never forget, as long as I live, he hit me up the next day. And I said, how did it go? And he's just like, dude, she literally looked at me and said, why didn't you tell me these things? I want the same thing. And so here's this marriage that they've been together for a long time, and they're just literally not communicating, not willing to communicate, not listening, not willing to be open, not willing to be vulnerable, not willing to share their heart, not willing to share their desires and their dreams and their aspirations with each other. So much so that like they literally both want the same thing. We all want to connect sexually. Okay. We all do. We all want to be able to be loved and to be loved and to give love. We want to explore. All of us, men, women, we're creatures of exploration. We like these things, but we're so fucking like committed to these stories and these patterns that somehow we think that if I share something, if I share a desire, if I share a dream, if I share whatever, she's going to think I'm nuts. Well, the truth is you don't know. And he literally didn't know. And so come to find out, he's like, here's these things that I want to do in my our relationship, you know, sexually. She's like, why didn't you tell me this stuff? I want the same thing. And he went through all of that shit, simply because he didn't communicate. And I wonder how many people listening to this, and I did this. This is where I was for many, many, many years in my marriage. You know, how many people are unwilling to just put the cards on the table and be radically open and radically honest and radically vulnerable, that you're literally living in a place of discomfort. You're like you said, you're putting yourself there. You're carrying the backpack. You're schlepping around the fucking backpack. If you want to run and feel light and move and be quick, just get rid of the fucking backpack. Cut the straps of the backpack. Take the rocks and the bullshit out, and you can run faster. Both of you do that together. But dude, the idea of that is scary. It's scary to talk about what I want sexually or emotionally or physically or any of these things.
What's scarier though? Dude. Losing everything?
Yeah.
Or being honest? Like what's worse?
Yeah.
What's interesting too is if you think about like, is the relationship stagnant or are you stagnant? Is your life stagnant? I see a lot of couples will blame their unhappiness on their relationship, but yet they are not doing anything for themselves to keep their own fire burning. You are your relationship. You are, yes, you are 100% accountable. Be 100% accountable for the relation. Like you and I have this is how what we believe is, I am 100% accountable for this relationship. You contribute, but I take full ownership of this relationship. If this is stagnant, it sure as shit means I am. And I would yet to believe that there is a relationship out there that is not doing well, that the person is thriving themselves. Right. And because, you'll see people will be like, well, she's this and she's that and she's that. It's like, no, well, the grass is not greener out there, guys. Like girls. And girls, it is not. If you've got a pretty awesome person next to you that you're just bored with, or you just like, there's nothing really progressing, I would encourage you to turn towards them and get honest and communicate and build something more exciting there than try to go out into the dating world and try to find something that's so much better. Because if you've got a loyal person next to you that you've already built a lot, it's like remodeling the house, right? Like you don't have to burn the house down. It's like maybe you just need new curtains and maybe some new flooring and, it's that simple. A pretty throw pillow. A pretty throw pillow. Jesus Christ. It's just that simple. Just go out and get yourself some new throw pillows. Call Saxony. She'll tell you what pillows to get. And it'll be great. Everything will be great. Oh, my God. Spruce up the old house. Spruce up the old house. Well, I think, we can continue to talk about this. So I think that's a good place to leave this. Because what else do you add to that? What else can we add to this? I'm sure we will in other episodes. But this is just, we wanted to do, again, some fundamentals on just building a relationship. Yeah. Some right out of the gates, pay attention to these things. Yeah. And we'll dive into being open and one other thing I want to say though. Yeah, we'll talk about sex. Later. But on that topic though, one of the things that I feel really strongly about with you is it's almost a superpower to be able to share what I think would be weird or what I think would be odd or what I think would be maybe not received. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that we can go talk with the homies about this, that, and the other, and you can go talk with your chicks about it. You guys can go out on girls' night, probably all talking about fucking martinis and talking about anal sex and blowjobs and this and that and money and blah blah. Dudes can go out and talk about getting head and blah, and all. I mean, I'm using very loose terms here and shit like that, but
I think everybody knows what I'm saying. Imagine if you have that same, is it crass? What's the word I'm looking for? Imagine if you had that same tenacity, that same desire to have those types of conversations. And I'm not just talking about sex. I'm not just talking about friggin', anal sex and whatever. Like, I'm talking about like everything, like your emotions, your fears. Like, you girls go out and they talk about all of these things and where they are and boo 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 hoo hoos and ha ha ha's and all this other shit. Guys go out and like, we're all shooting the shit about this and this and this and this. Imagine having that same desire and that same level of commitment to communication with your lover. Like, it's a scary proposition. It's a scary thought, especially if you've been in a relationship for an extended period of time, because it's almost like this, whoa, who is this person? But if you both come to the table and be like, look, let's light this motherfucker on fire. Like, let's legitimately light this shit on fire. Yeah. I would be willing to bet, and tell me what you think on this. I would be willing to bet that 99% of you listening to this, if you fall in the category or you consider yourself somebody that's stagnant, relationship is here, whatever, maybe it's not just bad, but the fire's not really there. I would be willing to bet that both of you would be willing to step up to the table and light this fucking thing on fire. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah.
And so be that person. Literally, it's not the issue of going first. It's the issue of going. It's me being able to just go and do for me. I want to be in for me. I want to have the best relationship here for me. You just said that you're responsible to this relationship. I'm responsible to this relationship. I want the best fucking relationship humanly possible. So I'm going to play all in. I'm going to put all the cards on the table. I'm going to talk about everything. I'm going to tell you what I want.
Well, you're my best friend. I want you to.
BFFs. We need
BFFs.
But think about that. I really want people. Tattoos. I want people to really wrap their head around this. That there are a lot of men waiting for women and women waiting for men to almost give them permission to go light the shit on fire, and that's never going to come. I promise you that will never come. However, if you choose to light shit on fire, just like it's the exact same fucking thing in dating. You're waiting to tell somebody the truth until when they tell you the truth, or when you feel safe, you're literally lying. You're waiting to be honest. You're waiting to give someone your heart until you feel safe, or they give you their heart. Well, good fucking luck. That's never going to happen. If you want to light this thing on fire and you're waiting for your lover, you're waiting for your husband, you're waiting for your wife, good fucking luck. Be the person literally that grabs the book of matches and lights the shit on fire. Be the person that steps up, books the dinner, makes the reservation and says, hey, I'm going to tell you some things. And you just fucking dump that shit out there. Like, I would be willing to bet that 99% of the people that do this, that take this challenge on, will win.
Yeah.
And I'd be willing to bet that if you do that, not for the other person, but for yourself, that other person will follow, if you will, or join you. Better idea than following. Join you in that reality. And don't ask for permission, man. Fellas, don't ask for permission to have these conversations. Ladies, don't ask for permission to have these conversations. Fucking just jump in and have the conversation, right? Be the person that does it for yourself.
Say I love you first.
Say I love you first.
Love
Say I want to fuck you first. Say I want to fucking make a ton of money first. Say let's take this vacation first. Like, be that person that does that and light it on fire and watch what happens. It's a scary thought process. It's an intimidating thought process. Yet it could be the most liberating thing that you've ever done for yourself and for your relationship.
Once you experience it, you won't want to do anything else.
We're like addicted to it.
We are.
We just talk about wild, crazy shit all the time. And it's like, oh yeah, well, that was crazy. I'm going to tell you, I'll see your level of crazy and I'll raise you 10 bars of crazy.
It's good. It's not good crazy.
But it works.
It works.
It works.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, babe?
No.
You smell really good, by the way.
You smell really. We honestly smell the same, guys.
Yeah.
We're
wearing the same
perfume/cologne.
Perfume/cologne.
We must be best friends.
It's a unisex thing, and it's really good.
Of course, better be good. It's like $500.
It wasn't $500.
It's $450 something after tax.
She gives me like 10 samples at the mall last night. Smell all these. The one that I pick happens to be the most expensive one, but happens to be Creed, which I actually wear and like, and it's a unisex cologne. So we're both wearing the same.
They smell like tropical vacation. My favorite.
All right, guys. Hey, thank you for listening. Please share. Please comment. Please like this. If you've gotten some value from it, we love hearing from you. Shoot us a message. Shoot us a DM. Share this with your tribe on Instagram, on Facebook. Head over to our Facebook page. Say hello. Please like, please comment, please share. We'll see you guys next time. See you. Bye.
Bye.